Business Process Outsourcing. It's for individuals that will need lead generation, appointment setting, sales, inbound customer support, back office support, and even non-voice support. It's when they need to offset what's going on in their office so they can focus on other areas. Plus, there's certain infrastructure that we have here in order to be able to gauge certain metrics. There's structure with a predictive dialer, CRM systems, even time clock reports. So you really get every ounce of energy and work out of your agent that has the structure and discipline to not only match, but sometimes exceed what's happening at home office. So I believe people should earn that seat through merit.
I was in real estate from age 19, and I used to have to dial for dollars, and my boss would get one of those 24-dot matrix machines and print me out this long list, and he'd say, Daniel, make 500 telephone calls per week. And I thought 500 was going to be easy, but it was very taxing mentally and emotionally. One of the things now is that a lot of real estate agents don't have to do that manually. They now outsource that to other businesses. So for a sales organisation, how could they benefit from BPO?
Well, I believe they need to give us the proper resources. Do they have a script that's been tested? Do you have actual recordings that we can analyze? What are your metrics? What's your call to contact to conversion ratios? What's your average talk time? Do you have a wrap-up time? Do you leave voicemails? Do you have templated emails? I mean, these are the sort of things I need to ask you. You might be a hotshot single player, but you're talking about scaling a team of dozens. So I just want to make sure that if you're talking about a 5-minute talk time, I would need at least 4,000 unique numbers a month to throw in a predictive dialer to flip that list legally 3 times. And so these are the sort of questions that I would ask to make sure that you're prepared so we can fulfill your needs. But I will say this, my friend. I know that this supervisor of yours with coffee breath yelling at you to make your 500 calls a week. For me, my friend, it would probably be 444. Why? Because my metrics moved. I'm on the phone for possibly another minute or two, okay, which means I'm making less calls. But my calls are more quality, and I'm also building a pipeline because I'm qualifying. I'm doing positive escalations. When I speak to a wife or a secretary, I'll make sure verbally they're doing a great job. When I charm them enough with a company name spike to get the pass to pitch to you, I'm also going to let you know verbally and in writing. So as I'm building my pipeline and calling the company back, not only do they recognize me, get a hero's welcome, add to momentum, more of your company culture. And at the end of the day, Daniel, when you're talking about leverage, you got to choose between 10 companies. I'm not India or the Philippines. Might be a little more expensive. Look at the way I treated your assistant. I called you back on time, followed through on that email. How about this? I did so much due diligence on you from your LinkedIn profile and your website that I custom made your voicemail and email. You loved me. It was almost mine to lose. And so I'm earning these things by getting a lot of first downs and moving it forward through momentum. I'm not angling my way in there or pretending to be. And so if you have that sort of pace and rhythm, your supervisor needs to calm down. He should remember when he was on the phone and what it's like to do this sort of forced march. Now also, my friend, you need to build up that endurance for it. You're talking about manual dialing. We have machines now that do that for you. But the old school players, off of those Cisco phones, remember how to do those dials? Like I did. And so you have these romantic deaths, almost like that tarot fool card where you're walking off the cliff sniffing a rose with the sun on you. You have to make sure you jump 30-second clouds. Company name spike, positive escalation, proper introduction. And we'll see where that goes. It's a perfect play. I'm not worried about 10-minute calls. I'm worrying about 20, 30-second calls to get your 10 minutes so I can have checkpoints and make sure I'm in control.
Now, they're interesting things that you'd be asking a client. And I remember when I first was introduced to BPO was through a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. And I thought to myself, I could live as an expatriate, I could live in a foreign land, and I could have somebody taking care of all the detailed work. I could do the big picture work, I could go out and do the coaching and the consulting, but I don't have the patience to do the callbacks. But I don't have the time. I don't have the skill because I don't actually know the touch points. I don't know what the consumer wants. And I could go out there swinging my bat and hopefully I hit a ball, but the chances that I hit a ball and hit a home run, I know are going to be pretty slim. And I took advantage of these types of services probably all the way back in 2013. And it made my life easy. And what it gave me was an opportunity just to focus on what I was good at. And I know for myself, it's worked really well. But for businesses who have to scale, and you've got to bring in 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 people at a time, but you don't have the skill yourself to train them, this is a fantastic service. But you've also got to get into hiring and recruitment. If you're looking at an agent, what are those soft skills? What are those characteristics? What are those qualities that make for a top candidate?
Well, it's definitely not the shiny object and the bells and the whistles. I can't tell you how many times I've been disappointed with a really flowery resume of someone that has fidelity and wants to be your future leader. But they're mercenaries. They got great English. They got hired by Amazon the next day and their girlfriend works there. So my industry is a little bit different, my friend. I'm in a call center, and it's almost like what you've seen in the movies with Wolf of Wall Street, even though we don't sell stock. There is a rotation, attrition, as you say, potential burnout. I'm exceptionally selective of the campaigns that come in here. There's certain things I do not do here to compromise the ethics of the agents in this strict Catholic country. I want my parents to be proud of me. And so the kind of people that I'm looking for, how about this, my friend? This might give your clients comfort when they outsource. Think of a page to a night. I'm not telling you I'm going to run your whole business. I'm just a virtual side of you, like a best friend that lives cross country. You have your culture and I have my infrastructure. Fly down and visit me, or let's just get on a lot of powwow meetings and we can figure it out. But it's nothing to be afraid of, and I'm going to tell you why. Because pre-COVID, it was really brick and mortar. Post-COVID, it's hybrid, it's virtual. So really anybody in the world can work for you, minus an accent which bears the mark of higher education. And to me, it's really a beauty mark. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a kid that had a coming of age moment, shows up on time, pen at the ready, likes to play pinball and Pac-Man with me in my game room, actually does some dedicated practice outside of the office. Just like those that are bilingual or artists and athletes, they do more than just what's in training. They become aces, they become winners. And so people know what it takes. And if I can see someone that's budding and that just needs some sort of structure and direction, I'd be more than happy to delegate, but do it at certain levels where they learn how to do certain things, or maybe just, since English is my first language, use that as leverage to improve on their diplomacy and strategy to more strategic vocabulary. And I can have them listen and give them a more of a phonetic ear. I'm trying to pay it forward, Daniel. And so those that accept this and give back, you're in the right environment. You're not going to get lost amongst thousands. I'm 150 strong. So I'm looking for the assertive young man or woman, not the aggressive jumper that is a cancer, or the passive cat that needs like 5 months to get warmed up. We don't have time, Billy. It's not hit the ball and drag you. You should be coming in prepared and at the ready. I'm from Philadelphia. Come on. You got to match me. But so it's a riddle, my friend. And when they fill out these resumes, schmesumes, turn it over and give me 2 paragraphs of when you beat up a bully one time, or when my friend Daniel moves from Australia to Taiwan, which is wickedly cool. That's the story. That's the kind of guy that I would hire. But he's got no call center experience. He's got more guts than 50 of these guys. I definitely want to hire this cat. I want the marathon runner. I want someone that's done something exceptional in their life, like me. So we all can get together like, the Justice League. We're all superheroes. We just have our own special sauce. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for guys like you. I'm looking for people that are unique, the outsider, the genius, the one that's outside the bubble. But he's the one that's brave enough to believe in themselves. So you found a home with me. I'll be more than happy to grow with you.
With these agents, their tool is going to be their voice. And I noticed that with your tone of voice, you have this ability to speed it up and to slow it right down. You change your pitch. It can go from high to low, and it really takes me on a journey. When it comes to this tool, how do you develop this tool, this voice for your agents so that they can engage with people? You know, if you've got 20 seconds on a phone, you've got a small amount of attention. We know humans have the same or less amounts of attention as a goldfish. Goldfish has an 8-second attention span. Humans have a 7-second. What is it that you're doing with your voice to be able to get this message across?
It's very simple, Daniel. I'd like to give reference to one of my heroes and a master communicator, the late Helen Keller. This individual lost her sight and her hearing, but expanded on her taste, touch, and smell, and was a master. We have the opposite. We lose our taste, touch, and smell in this controlled environment. Our hearing should be expanded. But then you would say, Richard, what about the vision? I'd say, Daniel, it's quite simple. It's image streaming. It's metaphysics. It's adjectives and colorful language. The imagination is better than the movie. And so I've tried to really become a painting on the phone and not a print. You keep talking about making these calls and drugging through it and hating it. I look at it one call at a time. Strangers are friends you haven't met yet. And obviously, percentages get better. You move closer to the goal when you have less resistance. And so I've tried to take into consideration egos, defense, and black and blues. So I mentioned earlier a company name spike. I'm going to say, leverage with Daniel. How are you today? Oh man, at least I bought 10 seconds. I'm not going to say, hi, this is Richard, or is Daniel there? We're good, thanks. I'm going to snap you out of it. I'm going to say better than you do. Then you're going to ask me who I am, and I use a buffer boomerang technique. I always buffer negative tones, right? I'm going to say your name, Daniel. That's an excellent question. My name is Richard Blank. So I show active listening, and you send it back positive, and it's just readjustments of tones. 30 seconds, my friend, you talk about attention span. I couldn't agree with you more. You eat, you drink, and you breathe a certain little bit. Why would you do information like a hose or a machine gun? I like biting and digesting. And so if I can close a door and get checkpoints, you will get the appointment. It's usually when you rush through a call or a meeting and you don't get that confirmed date where you're selling on time or information. It's because you left the door open. There's always clarification questions. And you should always be using tie downs, open-ended questions. Why ask if they like ice cream? Ask what kind of ice cream you like. You'll still get the yes or no, but then you get all the extras. And then you make camp. You go from horizontal to vertical, and you keep stacking. Why rush? That's why my calls lasted a little longer. Not that I'm pushing a sales, because we're talking about Australia, Taiwan, and ice cream. And then your supervisor's yelling at me again. I'm going to tell them to calm down. And then at break, in front of all the guys, I'm going to be telling them how I'm closing deals. But you didn't follow the script. Because ice cream's not in the script, Billy. What do you want me to do? So you can't be really a commissioned artist all the time. You need to zig and zag. There's always a wild card. If you're too stiff, you're going to suck. But if you're able to anchor with people in a realistic way, you will buy another 30 seconds of time. Know your boundaries, turn, take, and you can move forward in these conversations and build very nice books of business.
It's interesting you mentioned the ice cream. I worked at a bank and I was doing inbound calls, and it was the debt collection department. And I was speaking to a guy and I said, hey, where are you at the moment? He said, I'm down at the Bottle-O. I'm buying some beer. And so the conversation kept going. I said, look, if you paid your debt off today and cleared it up, you could buy yourself an extra case of beer a week with the extra money that you're going to save. And he said, Daniel, nobody's ever said it to me like that before. He goes, as a matter of fact, I'll just pay the debt off now because I'd rather have the extra case of beer every week. And my supervisor called me over. What are you doing? You can't mention beer. And I said, the beer got the debt collected. Well, you can't mention beer. And I said, well, the client told me he was buying beer and I wanted to leverage that. So I'm going to use a lot. And I said, what am I here for? Am I here to get the debt back? yes, you are, but you're not allowed to do it like that. And I thought, how ridiculous. If I
No,
could
I
enter that
understand the
person's
rules.
model of the world
I'm
and
proud
they
of you,
could
though, my
see,
friend.
thank you, thank you, my heart's returned back to
Debt
normal
collecting is
after 20
not
years.
easy to do, and you're speaking with people on sometimes the worst day of their lives. And the fact that you use that anchor of beer, it's not like you're talking about getting wasted, but you're probably the only person actually related to this individual. You probably didn't even call him sir. You might even
Next.
remember his name.
Might have talked to
And
him about it in excess.
but I'd stress using people's names, Daniel, or at least using a quarter-second slide with pronouns saying your or are, because you talk about the phone, you're not visual. I can't, they don't see you nodding, leaning forward, right? The facial expressions everyone keeps talking about. Reading people, well, that's great. Why don't we do it like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, where he had the blast shield down using that lightsaber trying to hit that weird thing in the air? You sometimes have to go blind. And so what I try to do, and you mentioned this earlier, how they handle themselves and balance on the phone, is through phonetics. Phonetics is beautiful. It's done in any language. I always think it's the number one tell sign as well, Daniel. You break it down into 4 areas: tone, rate, pitch, and duration. Your tone represents your emotion. That's your consistent variable. You want to be empathetic and confident. That's where you usually get the most positive reactions and you don't rock a boat too much. But Daniel, you've been in sales. Your supervisor would mention mirror imaging people. I like to do that with this phonetic micro expression reading in regards to your speed and your speaking level, how loud you sound. I'll match you. Because if you spike or dip, that's usually when I ask sounds good or makes sense or some sort of clarification question. Why? Because I don't know you. And you could be a barking dog that doesn't bite and the quiet dog that will rip your arm off. So you're looking at seeing consistent patterns of people. I'd rather have the 3-second insurance policy and asking if there's any additional questions and may we move forward than assuming. Because when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. So you don't want to do those sort of things. Checkpoints every 30 seconds to a minute and see if they spike or dip. But here's the skinny dinny. You can manipulate a tone, rate, and a pitch. But the duration, that's the answering speed. That's the subconscious. And so I think that's the number one tell sign. Isn't it the irony of the phonetic? It's the sound of speech when I'm telling you the greatest tell sign is the silence. It's the spacing between. And it's something that once you practice it for a couple weeks, it becomes habit. It will not impede or distract you at all with your work. It's just something you'll be used to, like breathing. And it will be one of those things to add to your lucidity. It will really put you in the now. There are certain things that will distract you, past and future, but you could have these sort of spinners or object or self-adapters. But I found that by paying attention to people's phonetic micro expression reading has assisted me in paying a lot more attention and listen a lot more carefully. And also catch it when you're being facetious. So I ask you to clarify it for me with one of your 5 senses to see if you can back it up. Because most of the time people will overextend themselves and I'll usually catch them. And so use this wisdom for good. It's like fire. Use it for health and for heat and light. But don't publicly embarrass people. But it's also a way for you to gain a level playing field with individuals if they're trying to do something when you meet them for the first time.